I think we'll get started because otherwise we could wait for everyone to be here. I'm sure people are on the way. It was quite a bit longer walk than most of us anticipated, but it's a pleasure to be here in the new Convention Centre. To the Honourable Zoe Bettison, representing the Premier, Senator the Honour Jan McLucas, Federal Shadow Minister for Housing and Homelessness, Tim Wilson, the Human Rights Commissioner, Rachel Sanderson, the State Member for Adelaide. I don't think Genevieve Hazy's arrived yet, but I'm sure she's on the way, the Lady Mayoress. Professor Julian Disney, the co-chair of Anti-Poverty Week. Ms Anne Gale, South Australian Commissioner for Equal Opportunity. Dr John Brayley, South Australian Public Advocate. Ms Glenda Stevens, CEO Homelessness Australia. Casey Chambers, Executive Director Anglicare Australia. David Walk, CEO of St Vincent de Paul. Ross Wamsley, Executive Director of SACOS, Simon Shrapnel, Chief Executive of Uniting Communities, Paul Madden, Chief Executive of the Wyatt Trust, Phil Fagan-Schmidt, Executive Director of Housing SA, Rob Martin from Common Ground, Matt Clemo, General Manager of the Committee for Adelaide, and to all of you who have made time to come here today, welcome and thank you. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. Secondly, I'd like to introduce myself. Some of you may have noticed that I'm not Lynn Arnold. Sadly, Lynn's been stricken by a number of temporary, but I understand highly contagious illnesses, which have made it impossible for him to be here today. He sends his sincere apologies. I know he is genuinely very disappointed. I'm Cathy King and I've recently taken up the role of Chair of the Board of Management of the Dunstan Foundation. When I say recently, it was announced 2 days ago. I'm sure you can imagine my surprise at being up here today. So some of it may be, I may be winging it and I may be reading it, so you'll just have to excuse me. But one thing I am confident of is any of my shortcomings will be adequately disguised by the speakers to follow. It is, I'm sure you'll agree, a lineup of immensely knowledgeable and highly committed experts who have made time to join us to work through the challenges ahead and the role we can collectively play in addressing homelessness. The Dunstan Foundation is aiming to provide the community sector with the opportunity to explore the role it plays and its unique value in the homelessness sector. It is our hope that the conference will inspire new thinking, new approaches and new relationships that will build on existing strengths. This conference would not have been possible without the generous support of our conference sponsors, the Wyatt Trust and Housing SA. Our sincere thanks to both. The Dunstan Foundation is also very grateful for the expertise and guidance provided by Professor Andrew Beer in developing the conference program. I hope you'll find the day informative and thought-provoking. I'm now pleased to introduce the Honourable Zoe Bettison, Minister for Communities and Social Inclusion and Minister for Social Housing. Minister Bettison is here representing the Premier to officially open the conference and we thank her for that. However, I'm confident that her real interest in her portfolios and her deep commitment to social justice would have ensured her attendance here anyway. Thank you, Zoe.
Good morning, everyone. And for those of you who aren't from Adelaide, can I get a hand up? Welcome to our wonderful, livable city. You're welcome to stay, spend your money, and enjoy our wonderful wine. Look, let me take this opportunity to acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with the country. Let me acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues, Senator Honourable Jan McLucas and Rachel Sanderson, who's my Shadow Minister for Social Housing. I'm delighted to be invited to open the second Addressing Homelessness conference, which links directly with matters of interest to the South Australian Government and no doubt to many of you. Addressing homelessness and strengthening the homelessness agenda are key concerns to government and also the community sector. Now that state and Commonwealth funding for the specialist homelessness sector funding is in place until mid-2017, there is time to have these important conversations, such as those on the agenda today. At the core of the community sector is its strong and enduring commitment to people affected by poverty, inequality, social injustice, and to fairness and inclusivity. I want to formally recognise and acknowledge the pivotal role the community sector and the academic community play in advocating for disadvantaged and vulnerable people in our community and engaging in community and public policy dialogue. And while I'm here, I particularly want to thank the people who engaged in South Australia in the roundtables that we had last year when we were unsure if the national partnership was going to go ahead. And I thank you for the time that you gave and also your ability to work as a collaborative group to talk about if the case was that we had to do more for less. However, I don't want to underestimate today the structural issues outside the homelessness and housing system which impacts on levels of homelessness. Homelessness continues to be a complex problem with no straightforward or easy solution. Over recent years, the homelessness sector and government have together made significant advances in responding to the needs of people who are homeless or at risk. However, people are still becoming homeless and struggling to achieve housing stability. In this time of soaring house prices and a tight housing market, an adequate supply of affordable housing options to meet demand remains a very important challenge. Access to decent, affordable housing is a basic human need. Housing supply and access is, however, only part of the picture. As you all know very well, the complex causes of homelessness, such as gendered and family violence, child abuse, poverty, entrenched intergenerational disadvantage, poor education, trauma, alcohol and substance misuse, and mental health also needs to be addressed. This is no simple task. However, I always believe there is more that can be achieved if we work together. Connecting or reconnecting vulnerable people to family and community when safe to do so, and helping people towards meaningful participation and inclusion must be our shared goal. The focus of today's conference is humanity, productivity, and building futures. These concepts are important for many reasons. They build on the themes that emerged in the last homelessness conference, such as jobs first, not only housing first, and connecting more broadly outside the homelessness sector. They also reflect the growing recognition across Australia of the importance of economic participation for all Australians, including those experiencing homelessness. For example, the McClure Review has recommended that our welfare system should be geared towards getting people back into work or volunteering, subject to their personal capacity. Economic participation is important. It provides many social, interpersonal, psychological and health benefits, with an increased income and opportunities to move out of poverty. McClure also advocates for volunteering to be recognised as a meaningful participation goal for those who have limited capacity to fully engage. This is a notion that I strongly support. If someone has a limited capacity to participate, volunteering is a very positive option. And what does this mean for the community sector, who draw on so many volunteers in delivering their important services and programs? This year, the Productivity Commission also released another important report, the Housing Assistance and Employment in Australia report. This made clear that while employment rate of social housing tenants is low, this is primarily because it is targeted to those most in need. It is the individual characteristics of personal need that have the biggest impact on economic participation, rather than the form of housing someone is in. So on one hand, this is a positive. Social housing does not cause low employment for tenants. On the other hand, there is also a challenge. While social housing doesn't make people's situation worse, how can it make it better? Is providing secure and affordable housing enough in itself, or do we also have a role connecting people to social and economic participation at the right time? Some community sector organisations are already demonstrating success in partnerships with local employers and the business sector, connecting people to education, training and employment. For example, in the first half of 2015, 54 clients participating in Hutt Street Centre's Pathways program have been successful in accessing employment, and a further 9 are volunteering. Catherine House's Education and Employment program has received national recognitions for its entrepreneurial efforts in engaging clients in pathways to economic and social participation. Well done to these services and to the many of you who are pushing the boundaries and thinking creatively as you work with others to develop new participation-focused opportunities. I hope that today's conference stimulates further interest in how we can better connect people into social and economic participation on both a small and a large scale. I wish you well with the day and look forward to hearing the outcomes. Thank you.